All right, we're back. Let's chat all things Women's Super League. What's going on in WSL? I think we got to start with Sam Kerr. That's where we got to start. We got to start with Sam Kerr and 50 goals in Barclays Women's Super League, the ninth player to reach this accolade. What a time.
How exciting for Sam Kerr. It's amazing. She's just the ninth player to reach 50 Super League goals. She is the second quickest after Miedema, and only the second player with Chelsea to do so after Fran Kirby. The fact, though, is that Sam Kerr has only been in the Super League for 3 years, and she reaches this 50 goal record. I mean, we saw her in 62 appearances over 3 years, 50 goals. That's incredible. Those stats are incredible. And now NWSL fans that saw Kerr play in the NWSL and with Chicago specifically, like, they know what Kerr can do and they know how many records she can break. But this is just fantastic. We had to highlight it. A legend, Sam Kerr, for sure.
I mean, Kerr look, you're talking about the timeline, right? 3 years already reaching this goal in Women's Super League. And guess what? 3 years away from NWSL, and no one is coming close to breaking the 77 goals that she racked up while here in the United States and playing for multiple different teams in NWSL. So I'm curious if we'll see players get closer to that, right? We've already talked about Lynn Williams. I think we're keeping an eye on Alex Morgan. I mean, we were just talking about Sophia Smith, the youngest player to reach 25 goals in the fastest way possible. I mean, only a few years for Sophia Smith in the league as well. So we'll see. I think, look, we're talking a lot about expansion. We're talking about a lot of other things. I mean, Sam Kerr locked up on a contract with Chelsea through June 2024, I believe. And look, anything is possible. And maybe Sam Kerr wants to rack up more goals in Women's Super League, or maybe she might want to come back to NWSL and rack up even more goals back here. Mentioning in an interview, I think not too long ago, saying like she eventually along the line she'd like to get somewhere warm, and with not there's one, two, now three possible California teams. I'm just gonna let's have fun with it and put it out there now. Sam Kerr to the Bay. Let's see what happens there.
Yes, I love that. I mean, I think it's possible because Sam Kerr, yeah, she holds the record for NWSL goals. Lynn Williams, I think, is right behind her at like
Yeah.
79. Sam Kerr at 77, and then 59 at Lynn Williams, and then Christine Sinclair, I think, is also at 59. They're tied for second right now. Jess McDonald, Alex Morgan, they're all right there at the top of the list. But
Yeah.
perhaps Sam will play like one, like, right, she'll finish this year in the Super League. She'll rack up obviously a couple more goals. She'll just dominate in the Super League. Then she'll come back. I love it. Kerr to the Bay Area. I'm all about it. And then she will never lose her title of most goals in the NWSL because she'll return before anyone can do it.
Look at us just causing chaos early in the morning. And it's like if we gotta go live, we might as well be a little chaotic. But look, I think she's got some things on her European to-do list. And one of those might be chasing a Champions League title. And Chelsea is fully in the mix for that. And we'll have to stay tuned and see how that works out for the Blues. But congratulations to Sam Kerr. We're going to keep it international. We want to talk a little bit about how Sweden is now the host of the 2025 UEFA Women's Euro. That's an exciting time. We just came out of a very cool and awesome Euro experience just last summer. And now Sweden get the honors to host that tournament. I have to imagine that after witnessing all the soccer that came out of the tournament last summer, multiple host cities were eager to try to get their stamp on this tournament. But going to Switzerland.
Yeah, I think there was 3 major bids ultimately to get the Women's Euro, and Switzerland, of course, beating out the other 3 bids. It'll be a 16-team event, as always, in the Women's Euros. The last time Switzerland hosted any major soccer football tournament was in 2012. in 2008. Wow, I'm so used to saying like 2023. So that was the men's Euros alongside Australia where they co-hosted. So this time it'll just be Switzerland. Very historic, really exciting. Like it's hopefully this is how like the league like the global game of football continues to develop and grow. If we can get it in Switzerland, and we are, it's 2025. It'll be a big year. I'm excited for it. Sooner than we think too.
Maybe we're gonna have, yeah, I know we're talking about expansion in 2024, and it's just like, oh, that's just next year. And so that means we'll have eyes on Switzerland just the year after. So it's like it's just definitely not like this very like long and like too long into the future lens that we're staring down. But I'm excited for it. Hope we get not a repeat, but an even better version, right, of what we witnessed in the Euros last summer. Let's chat a little bit about France, because we need to talk about their new team manager. Hervé Renard, the new France team manager, already making some smiles happen. Let's just call it like we see it, because when this roster dropped for France, there were a lot of familiar names on there. Probably the biggest one is Hervé Renard. And there was a lovely image of the two of them meeting and shaking hands as the camps were kicking out. There you go. We got it up for you on our YouTube episode. But I feel like that's maybe just the beginning, which is wild to think about, because this team is trying to prepare for a World Cup that's going to kick off in July, and it is April that they're all getting to meet and gather together for the first time. But we've seen or heard that this is a program and a coach that is interested in continuing to sort of mend some of those broken relationships from former prominent veteran players. I mean, Eugenie Le Sommer is also back in this camp. This was a player who had an extended absence and had no longer received call-ups from previous manager Diacre. And so just a couple of those, like just looking at those two players and making their return, I mean, I would anticipate that he might want to get somebody like Amandine Henry involved in these camps as well. Another one of the players who was kind of vocal about the not so good experiences or discomfort that they felt by the current culture at the time. And another player who had no longer received call-ups as well into this one. So I think just looking at that initial list of players for this training camp, the fact that it was going to have a Hervé Renard, the fact that it was going to have a Eugenie Le Sommer back into the mix, I think was already really promising for this group and their build up to the World Cup. So I think right now maybe it's just a matter of like how quickly they're all going to get on the same page, essentially.
Yeah, that's really it, because it happens so fast. I mean, I feel like we've been talking about the FFF for weeks now, but Herve Renard basically resigned from being the Saudi Arabia men's head coach. And then it was announced on Thursday of last week that Renard would be the new French Federation women's national team head coach through this year. Friday, he announced his roster. So already the conversations, I mean, and we talked about Herve Renard and how she said, if Corinne Diacre is out and it's Renard in, like that's a different story. That's a different situation. And immediately after it was announced on Thursday, the response from a lot of the French women's players were that they were happy with this decision. It was mainly that they didn't want to play under Diacre, which we know they came out and they were very, very vocal about that. And Diacre removing prominent players from the roster like Le Sommer, and the fact that after 24 hours after being named the French head coach, he has already welcomed back in someone like Hervé Renard, Eugenie Le Sommer. I think that this, although it's such a quick turnaround between April 3rd, right, April 4th, and all of this happening to the World Cup that kicks off July 20th, the fact that there's already immediate steps being taken in the first 24 hours after this head coach is named, I think is a very, very, very good sign for France, for the fan base, for this team. Now, can they get all on the same page? How much is going to change? There's still a lot of question marks to come, but some of these answers will be made clear because France has friendlies coming up during this international window that's right now. So April 7th, France will play against Colombia, and then on April 11th against Canada, the Olympic champions. So two really good tests of this France team and kind of how they come, but how they come about. But I'm happy for them. I'm happy that Wendy Renard is back in the mix, and Eugenie Le Sommer. That is good. That's where these players belong to be. But I just hope it kind of all stays that way. But it seems to be positive from the players' perspective these first couple of days for sure.
Yeah, hopefully they just sort of take all that and sort of ride with that new momentum that they've got. Hopefully the concept of like a clean slate is something that exists at the moment for the coach and the players. And right when they announced that he was going to be the new manager, you and I know were like, okay, so this Canada friendly is on, it's game on, right?
Yeah.
Like we were very excited about that as well because unfortunately, these two programs had similar disputes, but some differences as well. Maybe not with France, it was more perhaps coach and team culture related, and for Canada soccer it's an ongoing dispute with the federation, which is just like this very familiar storyline that we hear from a lot of programs. And unfortunately it just really sucks that it's some of these some really prominent programs, and B, it's like this is something that we're like talking about in the buildup for the World Cup just months away. So there was some curiosity of like if whether things would kind of get ironed out before these two would have to meet. But Canada already in France, and these two will go head to head later on. It's going to be an exciting international window for sure. For a lot of teams, the last international window before a final World Cup roster is named. So we'll keep our eyes on that as well.